Hi there, I'm Rachel Gregg, and in this video I want to share a guide to keeping a travel journal. So either while you're on the road and out exploring, or afterwards when you come home, you might like to create a travel journal then. So I've pulled together some of the travel journals that I've created over the years, and I just wanted to show you the differences between them and the different sizes and how you can go about collecting all your stories and memories and then putting it into a journal. To start off, the most simplest way to keep a travel journal as you are traveling is to simply write in a book. So these ones here, these two here are some really old ones that I've done that obviously this one was when I went to Nepal, and these books here are school composition books or notebooks, and I've just decorated this just with some pattern paper, some scrapbooking paper to create a much more sturdier cover. So you can feel there that that's, instead of bending, that's actually quite stiff there because I've put some cardstock on this side, and all I've done in this travel journal is do some journaling. So that's the really simplest way that you can keep a travel journal while you're traveling. And the reason I did that for Nepal was that I was doing a big hike in some of the Himalayas section, so I didn't want to travel with a lot of things, so I just wanted to have one little book, and I just wrote at the end of every day of when I was hiking. This particular travel journal here, this is the same concept, so this being a just a normal school notebook, this is also the same, but this was a much longer trip. So this trip here was almost 12 months, and this was for my Europe trip. And what I did for the cover for this one was actually cover it in little tiny photographs. So before I left, I was working in a lot of dark rooms, so I had a lot of prints, like black and white prints and photos, and I printed out a whole stack of my family. So rather than actually taking a lot of photos with me, this is back before we had smartphones and iPhones or anything like that, so it was all very analog back then. This is in the late 90s. So what I did, rather than taking a whole bunch of photos to remember everyone by or show people who I was visiting when I was in Europe, I actually just covered this journal here with photographs of my family and friends. And this was a really cool sort of, talking point when I showed people my journal. And then inside I have just added bits and pieces. So it's mainly writing, this particular one. You can see here sometimes I've put in something. We ate a lot of sliced peaches. This was our trip that we did in our combi van. So we travelled around in a combi van, and we had all of our food inside of our combi van, like our breakfast and things. And I've still got some photos here that were from our trip. That was us dressing up in the Netherlands. This is a photo that I've still got in here of us when we arrived back home in Sydney after being away for so long. And each day in this journal here, I wrote about, well, I didn't miss a day. I wrote in every single day. This is actually a piece of the jumper or the pullover that I was wearing throughout the trip, and got rid of it at the end of the trip, but I've obviously just cut out a little piece just to remember that by. So this is also just a writing journal. In the back here, I have written down every night that we camped in our combi and where we camped. So that was it's just a really nice little keepsake from our trip. So they're probably the most simplest and basic ways that you can keep a travel journal while you're traveling. You don't need to cover the front cover, but I think it's always nice to do that. The other thing that you can do while you're traveling, this is a traveler's notebook from the Travelers Company in Japan, and they have come up with like a wallet sized traveler's notebook. And this one here, it has like an elastic band around here, and then it has these little inserts. And these little inserts, they have little elastics inside this notebook cover where you can pull out the inserts, which means you can just have one cover and then just use a different insert per trip, or whenever you want to interchange it for other things. This is one that I actually had when I was in Tokyo, but you can get ones with plain covers, and then this is all the memorabilia that I've got, that I kept from Japan. So I just have to finish this particular notebook. So I did keep a little bit of a diary or a journal when I was in Tokyo, but then can still finish things up later on when you come home. And this one here, similar concept. I've actually added charms here to the top here where the elastics are. And this one has pockets on the inside so you can keep your bits and pieces, and then the same kind of concept where you get these little inserts here and then you fill them with your memorabilia and your stories from your travels. So, and I really enjoy this kind of concept, but instead of having one large book for the trip, this one here, especially if you're doing shorter trips, this kind of concept works really well because you can just choose one of these smaller inserts and then fill it up. So if you're only going for a weekend, or if you're going for a couple of weeks or something, and then they're much easier to fill up basically. So, and then you can just add your bits and pieces. Now this is what I usually use as well when I'm traveling. So while I'm on my trip, I'll just be adding bits and pieces as I go, and then journaling as I go. And you can do some stamped bits, like if you want to decorate it a little bit before you go, so you've got a little bit more decoration in there, you can do that. Otherwise you can, take some washi tapes along with you. I usually do that because it's really good for adhering, little tags and bits and pieces as I go. And you can get these inserts in all sort of different patterns and designs. Some of them will have blank pages, some of them, like this one, will have a grid page. It just depends on what you prefer. So I really enjoy this style of travel journaling as I'm traveling, and you can get the same kind of concept but just in a pocket size. So this is the same concept, just a smaller version. So if you pull it open, you've still got your pockets here, and then you've got smaller inserts. So it just depends on what you prefer to do. So there's some things that I like to do while I'm traveling. And then if you've done some traveling and you'd like to keep a book, here's another journal. This is by Paper Blanks, and these have got really beautiful covers. This one here is one of their soft covers. That's their details on the back there. So, and they've just got lined pages on the inside. So if you wanted something a little bit more fancier rather than just your school notebook, and if you wanted something really nice, and this has got really nice covers on there, and this one's got a pocket on the inside here as well. So this is really great for traveling as well. And these covers are kind of like if you spilt something on it, you'd be able to wipe it off. It's almost like a matte laminate kind of cover, and then you can just fill it up with all of your stories. So that's another really nice one that I like to use as well. And so here's some ideas for if you've been on your trip, and these are a bit more scrapbooky because after I've come home I've been able to utilize some things that I've had in my craft stash to record my memories. And these are just little tiny books. Again, if you wanted to do a larger photo album, you could do digital scrapbooking and photo books and various things like that. But if you want something that you can play around with and be a little bit more creative, I've just printed off some smaller photos on this one and then just documented a little trip that I did to Hobart. This is another one where, again, using more of a scrapbooky style. This is one of my really old ones here, and this is, you can actually see our combi that I was talking about earlier on. And these are just some photos from our trip and just some highlights from that trip. That was just a nice little creative way to document some of that journey. And then this is another one. This one's just got a, you can see it's been around the traps for a little bit. And again, this is more of a, documenting the highlights from the countries that I've been to. So each page here had a different country that I had been to, and it's just choosing one of the photos from that trip and then just writing a little bit about that country. So that's a really cool way if you didn't want to document every single thing from your trips and you just wanted to document the highlights, or if you've been to a lot of different countries and you just want to do some highlights from each country, that's another idea that you can use. So I hope this has given you some ideas on how to create some travel journals, how to journal while you're traveling, and also how to journal after you've done your trip. And it could be something that you might be interested in, to document some of the travels that you've already been on, and hopefully give you some ideas on how you can document as you're going along. And please check out some of the other videos on my channel, because I do little flip throughs of some of my completed traveler's notebooks here, and you can see exactly page by page how I've done it and what I've stuck in there. So happy exploring and happy documenting. Thanks so much for watching.